Hey there, it's Grant with El Roo Bike. So I was considering making a video showing a super fun trail in the southern Utah desert called Bear Claw Poppy. In fact, it's more of a network of trails than a singular trail. It has all sorts of different trails you can head out on, and then a whole bunch of other ones that you can come back on, offering a ton of terrain options. So it really allows you to have whatever sort of ride that you're into that day. I was also considering making a video what to do when you find yourself coming back. It's gotten dark, you're in an unfamiliar area, there's a million and one different options to make your way back to your car, and you don't really know how to find the right trail for you, and you're in kind of a hurry, and how to orient yourself back in a situation like that. By the way, if either of those two topics are of any interest to you, please leave a comment below and I can actually make those videos. Okay, so a bit of background on the footage I'm about to share with you guys. It was actually the second day in a row I had gone out and tried to shoot this trail system. The first time, I'm still kind of a rookie with the GoPro, and I had the chesty mount, and I ended up shooting 90% of top tube and stem. You could see none of the trail whatsoever. So I went back out the second day, because I'm a professional, and I tried to shoot it again. But during that time, I ran into a couple of issues. I was running out of daylight, I ended up getting a bit lost, and I ended up finding myself in a makeshift race with somebody. So that's, I think, what I would actually like to share with you today. It was Friday, it was late in the afternoon, and the trail was much busier than it was the previous day. In fact, the parking lot was entirely full. There was countless people on the trail that I started passing as the ride began. Most of the people, with so many options, you were just able to pass them. The trail network, like I said, is pretty vast, so you can do a little offshoot here or an offshoot there. That was until I approached a gentleman in spandex. From this point in the story on, we're going to refer to him as Mr. Spandex. Now, I don't mean that as an insult, just for the sake of this story and from the video so you can tell who's who, we're going to call him Mr. Spandex. So, my intention with the ride was just to go out and capture footage of the ride, to kind of talk through different aspects of the trail and highlight different trail options when you're out there. Like I said, the desert is absolutely beautiful, so I thought it'd be really fun to share that trail with you guys. Another thing with the beauty of the desert, sometimes the desert is extremely dusty and dirty, and in fact, this particular ride, the trail was absolutely a nightmare. With that amount of traffic I encountered that Friday night, and an extremely long stretch of no rain out in the desert, there was a real fine, kicky, kind of that dust that just gets everywhere and absolutely coats your bike and makes a mess of it. Well, come to find out, when there's a bunch of riders, that loose dust that kicks your entire bike ends up getting kicked in the air and choking you, especially when you're riding close behind someone, which is the situation I found myself in with Mr. Spandex. So I found myself unintentionally pacing this guy. No matter if I tried to slow down or to speed up, I was right behind him, and I was kind of at a point where, do I eat this guy's dust for the next 12 miles, or what do I do? And I didn't think I wanted to pass him because I knew I was riding about at my comfortable limit for where I wanted to be for that day, and I knew if I had passed him that I would really have to make a go for it, and that wasn't the kind of ride that I had started out to do. So again, I ended up pacing this guy for quite a bit of the ride. In fact, I had to apologize to him at a certain point for riding so close to him.
Sorry, I don't mean to ride your ass. And
then we came to a hill. I'm from northern Utah normally, and I guess maybe riding at a higher elevation, 7,000 to 8,000 feet normally, as compared to down in southern Utah, 3,000 feet, maybe that gave me an advantage, because all of a sudden I found myself passing this guy. And I remember very distinctly saying, "Let me know when you want to pass." At that moment, very strangely, something happened. That ride went from a, hey, I'm out here in the desert trying to catch some footage and to make a video showcasing this awesome trail network, to an all-out race. Something in my head switched, and there was absolutely no chance in the entire world I was going to let that guy pass me again. I was riding very comfortably at a comfortable pace behind this person. And as soon as I chose to pass him, I went from, we'll say, a level 7 to a level 9 to stay past him and not let him pass me. So all of a sudden, instead of enjoying the ride and capturing the footage, I noticed I was downshifting gears to try and gain as much ground on this guy as I possibly could to keep that gap between us. Again, I don't know what happened. I just flipped this really weird competitive switch on in my head that I just lost all track of what I was doing, and everything else was gone, including taking footage. As you can see, it went from capturing this very nice ride to hardly any footage because I couldn't be bothered to turn the GoPro on because I was busy pedaling and breathing like a maniac. So this pace went on for quite a while. At best, I would reach dead real quick and turn the GoPro on for a second, and then I realized I was breathing so hard it would end up sounding like an X-rated video or something, so I would just turn it off. It was terrible. So this continued on for approximately 6 miles or so until I reached the halfway point of the trail. Like I said, there was just the maniac in my head was in charge, and I was not stopping. And in fact, by the time I got to that halfway point, funny thing was, the sun was going down at that point. So again, I was at a spot where the thing I had come to do to capture footage for that particular area of trail, I wasn't going to get anyway. So I was at kind of a loss at that point. So there I was halfway through the trail, and I remember looking back, and there was a weird sense of satisfaction because the guy was nowhere in sight. At some point during the ride, that little bit of lead I had on him had turned into a big lead. And strange as it sounds, that was very satisfying. I remember sitting there having a snack, and I waited for the guy. I actually said, hey, when he finally caught up, hey, thanks, that was really fun. I appreciate you pushing me like that. And he probably thought in his head, what the hell are you talking about? I'm just out here riding. But in my head, he and I were in like a full-out race. So I guess let me just kind of wrap this whole story up here because, again, there was a whole slew of things that wound up making the footage, A, almost non-existent, B, I did end up getting lost in the dark after this particular point.
I have no idea where I'm going.
Because it wasn't a trail I'm super familiar with. So again, if you want to see how I end up finding my way home in the desert in the dark when there's 800 different options to find your way to the car and your maps aren't very helpful, comment below. I can definitely put that video together. Okay, so I think the takeaway is this. It's probably best practice to leave your ego at the door and to go out and do what you sought out to do to begin with. For example, for me, it would have been to take my time, stop, let that person get far enough ahead that I could capture the footage I needed to for that ride, and to be done with it. Now, I'm a very competitive person by nature, come to find out, and a little bit of friendly rivalry really pushes me to a whole new level, which is great, but not in this particular case. Funny thing was, I did end up completing that ride 20 minutes, a full 20 minutes faster than I had previously. So that's great for Strava and for my ego, but it's really bad for what I went out to do. So in the end, keep it fun, keep it light, remember what you're trying to do, and every day doesn't have to be a race. You don't always have to ride at full tilt to have a good time. Okay, so I think I'll wrap there. I'd love to hear if you guys have found yourself in a similar situation, and at the end of it, you look back and you just laugh at yourself like, what's going on? How silly am I? All right. Grant, El Roo Bike, thanks, bye.